Good. Well, good morning, everybody. It's great to see everyone. Let's make sure we're all in the right space. Are we here to learn and adapt and grow our same-store sales and scale our brands? If we are, we're in the right room. If not, you can move on to somewhere else. Welcome to the Site Zeus presentation on revolutionizing franchise growth. And what I mean by that is whether you're company-owned or you're franchised, it is your brand that we think we can help you grow. I'm Jim Mises. I'm a board director here, but I'm also the former CEO of Blaze Pizza and Noah's Bagels and a couple of other brands. I've built over 900 restaurants, and I'm thrilled to be I've been a part of Site Zeus now for five years, helping them help you build your business. Along with us today is Hannibal Baldwin, as you can see, the CEO and co-founder of Site Zeus from the very beginning, along with his brother. Sean Ryan, who is the VP of Operations, and Russell Grant, who's the VP of Revenue for Gridwise, which is a partner of Site Zeus. All right, so why are we here today? Well, our goal is, as I said, to help you adapt to all the changes that have taken place in the workplace, and that show you that Site Zeus has adapted and changed as well to help you meet the needs of what's changing in the world. So our goal is to help you choose the very best sites for your brand, as well as identify the market planning for you, given what's changed. And what's changed, of course, is the growing on-the-channel nature of your business. For those of you who are working through all the various prospects of, we have to identify the sites, then we have to sign up franchisees, and then manage that whole process, and then build the sites and track the entire building process, and of course then open the site and then market to the changes that are taking place, you're going to see that Site Zeus has adapted and can do all of that today. And so lastly, once you've got it open, the understanding the customer segmentation to help you build your business. So again, that's why it's about scaling your business and then building same-store sales. What are we up against today? Well, I would imagine if I queried all of you that many of you have a system for franchise sales, and you might use a piece of software for that. And then you have something that is tracking your royalties, and something that is tracking how you build and track that. And then you have a whole host of marketing platforms that you use. And so you're going to see that Site Zeus is an end-to-end solution that can really help with that. Of course, there's all the third party in the last 4 years. I'll show you a slide soon, how omnichannel business has changed. That third-party delivery is now a significant piece of your business. And what we're here to show you is that there's a significant difference between that person who is ordering online or having it delivered and who's walking into your restaurants, and we can help you with that. And a lack of analytics to actually then understand that and then go to market so you can build your same-store sales. What's changed and what we're also dealing with is tech stress. All right, I could count on I need both hands and I might need my toes to look at all the different software platforms that are used at the support center and just as importantly used at the restaurant level. And we think we can simplify that and that we can help you address the omnichannel challenges that we all face with marketing to our customers. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to the founder, Hannibal Baldwin, who can talk to you about the evolution and the changes with Site Zeus.
Thanks, Jim. Appreciate it. So just to orient the conversation, the audience around who we've been and who we're becoming, I just want to quickly walk through what most of you, if you do work with us or you've heard of us, you probably think Site Zeus Locate, the platform that really helps with the location intelligence side of the real estate teams, the site selection, the impact analytics. And so that's what my brother and I started our journey 9 years ago, building the Site Zeus Locate platform to really help brands plan the markets and then execute on that site selection and finding those specific sites that have all the right characteristics that are going to produce overperformance. But then fast forward 8 years from 9 years ago, roughly Q3 of last year, we spent quite a bit of time developing a platform called Site Zeus Market that we launched in Q3 of 2022 with our partnership with Spatial AI. And really what we were trying to do here is help brands, once they open a location, really better understand who their core customer is and then how to get them in the door. And so we're going to show some really cool stuff off today in SiteZeus Locate and SiteZeus Market regarding third-party delivery data and how it can empower some interesting insights on both aspects of those platforms. And then recently in this quarter, in quarter one of 23, we launched a beta version of our product, SiteZeus Operate, that helps brands perform their demand planning at the operational level, so better understanding and forecasting sales by hour of day, by day of week. We're pulling in a ton of event data and weather data to really kind of start to round out the vision we have as SiteZeus, which you'll see come together here in a second. So we're helping find locations, market and attract customers, and then plan for that demand when it does come into the store. And then the final piece that we just solidified several weeks ago was an acquisition and merger of a company called Sonuma, which is in the franchise sales space and development construction space. And so this acquisition and this partnership is really something that we're now rebranding as SiteZeus Sell and SiteZeus Build, that you can see solves for what we call the site cycle. And what we're really trying to provide is a flywheel, a growth suite of products that a brand can come to, interact with a single vendor, a single contract, and not have any data silos across this entire flow of essentially the growth of your business. And so this is what SiteZeus has become today, and we're going to show off some really cool stuff between all of these different solutions and product lines and how they can interact together and how they can really streamline a workflow from performing franchise sales, territory planning, all the way into leveraging third-party delivery data, which is a huge aspect and problem in the industry today to get insights on, and how we can bifurcate our customers by dine-in versus third-party, and also look at the actual trade areas from a site selection standpoint as it relates to dine-in versus third-party, because they are very different. And so with that, this is what SiteZeus is becoming, and so I just wanted to set that table as we walk through some of these use cases. So I'm going to hand it off to Sean Ryan, our VP of Ops, to talk through a little bit more about the franchise sales side of things.
Yeah, thanks, Ann. So looking at our clients, we've really realized that there are 4 different departments that are responsible for bringing new units to market. We'll have a market planning team that we've typically interacted with for the SiteZeus Locate product, but there's also a franchise sales team, a real estate team, and a construction team that all have siloed solutions supporting their aspect of the development process. And what we've seen is that there's an enormous risk in the handoffs between these groups for projects to get off track. So what we've tried to develop with our suite of solutions here is ways that we can automate some of the manual work and make those handoffs occur in a smooth fashion. So what we're seeing here on the screen right now is how we can automate the handoff between your market planning team and your franchise sales team to give them an inventory of potential territories to sell to franchisees. And the way that we do that is by first mapping out the current portfolio. We then create bulk forecasts all across the market, so we can have 50,000 points where we forecast inside of a single DMA. And from there, we can identify where the brand has the highest potential. So we select that best point and then go to the next phase of eliminating anything that would conflict with it in the future. So what we land on is a market plan of exactly how many units you can open with the best point in a market for you to open going forward. But the feedback that we receive from franchise sales teams is, I don't need a point, I need an area to give a franchisee. So the points weren't necessarily helping as much. So what we did is we developed the next part of the solution, which is, okay, well, what if we took those points and turned them into a territory that could sit on the shelf and be ready to be used? So if we go to the next slide, this is really where SiteZeus Sell and Locate merge together to form one solution that's going to allow you to close deals faster. You're going to be able to track your leads, identify the appropriate opportunities for that lead based on the information they've submitted, and sign deals. So without further ado, Hannibal, do you want to hit the video?
So today we wanted to walk through an example of how we could use a combination of the Sonuma platform and SiteZeus in order to track our potential franchisees find them territories, and get agreements signed. So currently I am in the Sonoma platform and I'm looking at our lead list, and I currently see all of our potential candidates. So I'm going to click into Sean Ryan, a potential candidate, and I'm taken over to his detailed page here. So on this page, I can see information about this potential franchisee. Most importantly, what I'm going to focus on today is his area of interest is Tempe, Arizona, and they're looking to open 1 unit. If I scroll down here, I'm able to look at some additional functionality inside of Sonoma, like the stage that person is in, specific timelines that are customized to my brand that help me bring a candidate from the very first stages all the way through opening their first unit. And I'm also able to track my correspondence and documents in here. So I know that Sean is interested in Tempe, Arizona. So I'm going to jump back to the SiteZeus platform. Now that I'm in SiteZeus, the first thing that I can look at is all of my existing units in the market. So these are sites that operate today. And I'm also able to turn on my trade area seeds. So trade area seeds represent really areas that we want to be in the future. These were developed using a process that our support team runs that essentially optimizes every single market based on density. So we group additional units closer together in densely populated markets, and we spread out a little bit more as we get out into suburbs and rural areas. This is helpful for identifying specific points, but what we actually need today is a territory for our franchisee to search in. So instead of looking at our trade area seeds, what we've done is we've converted those into recommended territories or polygons. And these are really focused on optimizing the spacing between the sites, and again, just giving you something that you can assign to a franchisee to get them off and running quickly. On the map, I can see that there is an opportunity in the Tempe area that we have as a open territory. So all I'm going to do is move or copy, and I can copy this into our pending set, and I can name this Sean's 1 unit deal. Once that's added to our other set, I can do a few more things, like maybe we want to color this orange since it's pending. We might want to analyze this polygon to make sure that the population and median household income matches what we're looking for our brand. And we might want to add additional notes based on the conversations that we've had with Sean and where in this market we're directing him to. So Sean's 1 unit deal here. And we're looking to close by 5/1. All right. So once that's been created, we can start to incorporate this into that franchisee's agreement. So what you can see here is that we've just copied the territory in a screenshot right into their agreement. This might change after the site has been selected. We've heard a variety of setups that franchisors have used in order to basically establish protected territories for a franchisee's units. But now that that's been created and we have our document saved, I can come back into the Sonoma platform and upload this document. So we have it available to refer back to in the future, and we can send this to the franchisee in order to get their sign off on it.
Market planning and franchise sales don't need to be disconnected functions going back and forth making decisions. We can have an integrated approach where we have that inventory already developed and ready to be sold. So once we've brought that franchisee on and found a site using SiteZeus Locate, we get into the construction management piece. So again, instead of going over to another solution with the construction management team and having duplicates of data that's not being transferred properly, we can just simply add that location from the locate platform and start to track things like the site's timeline, who's responsible for what. We can have a site opening checklist in there, and if we CC a certain email, we can store all of the documents and photos that have ever been used in conversations about that site with our record in the build platform. So again, we're just trying to create one home for all of your data and remove the friction and handoffs that are causing teams to have delays and slower openings.
All right, thanks. And so you can see this is the two new elements, if you will, of SiteZeus. So now let's turn to the marketing that continues to change with the omnichannel present. Nothing new in this slide that you haven't seen before. This just shows that in a 3 months time frame during the start of the pandemic, this industry adjusted and adapted to deal with the growth of third-party delivery and online orders. And if you look here, you can see that a trend that was starting pre-2020, if you would have drawn the line, it would have taken it to 2023 or 2024 to reach where third-party delivery sales are today. So we've all done a great job with that, but now the question is, how do we adapt and how do we market differently to these different customers who are coming into our restaurants? And so with that, I'd like to introduce Russ, who's going to walk you through what Gridwise can do and how it works with SiteZeus.
Thanks, Jim. It's great to be here, and I'm super excited that SiteZeus invited me to join on this panel. First, real quick, show of hands, is anyone familiar with Gridwise? The SiteZeus folks should at least be. Yes. Thank you. So Gridwise is the leading business companion app for gig workers, so both rideshare and delivery workers. We have, at current, about 175,000 monthly active drivers on our platform, about 400,000 total nationwide. And as you can see, about 500 million trips total. We have about 4 million per month right now that we are logging across delivery and rideshare. You can see some of the brands that we work with, and we work directly with these drivers. So essentially, as a business companion app, we're helping drivers figure out when and where are the best times to do deliveries and track their miles, track their earnings, and as a result, we aggregate and anonymize that data, and we have a first-party, our company has a first-party data set that we are partnering with SiteZeus to provide insights into that show what's really happening in the delivery side of the economy. And so this is a never-before-seen view of what's actually happening on the driver side. So you can see what types of trends are happening over time, where some hot spots of pickups and drop-offs are, and as you'll see in this short demo, actually how that overlays with your trade areas. So, yeah, I'll pass it off to Hannibal.
Thanks, Russ. Yeah, so again, you guys are all probably already familiar with the whole mobile data movement that started roughly 4 or 5 years ago. I assume most brands are leveraging mobile data in some form, in some way, when they're analyzing their trade areas. And that's great, but one of the biggest problems our clients and prospects continue to ask us is, can you separate who's delivery and who's dine-in, right? And so really this is kind of the initial answer in partnering with Gridwise that I'm aware of anyone bringing something to market where you have really kind of solid, hardcore insights into what is the trade area for your delivery versus your dine-in, and are there different customers for those two aspects. And so what I've done is kind of name this slide a tale of two different trade areas. You can kind of see a glimpse of what we're going to run through, but I've got a 2-minute video really quickly just literally showing off the Phoenix market. I took 60 Chipotles in the Phoenix market, which blew my mind that there's that many of those in Phoenix. And I just focused on 2 units and how their trade areas actually interact and what may arise out of the real estate side of things as we look at that. So I'm going to scroll over and click play real quick.
All right, so I figured since we're all in Phoenix at RLC, it might be nice to look at the Phoenix market. Today I'm going to use all of the Chipotles in the market, so I've mapped every Chipotle that's in Phoenix as a green bolt, with the exception of the 2 that we're going to analyze today, which are the 2 thumbs up signs here in SiteZeus. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on mobile data. And then I'm going to turn on our dark map so you can actually see the mobile data really well. So what you're actually seeing show up is all of the path to purchase points of where cell phones came from to get to that location and where they went after their dine-in experience. I'm going to turn off all of those trips so that we can just look at the closest 70% of that data, which really represents the core trade area for these two sites. So you can see the pink one, the pink trade area relates to this site, and the blue trade area relates to this site. And so you would assume off the bat that these are pretty close together, along with all the other Chipotles, and that there's likely some cannibalization. This market is saturated. But when we come along and we turn on the third-party delivery trade areas from Gridwise, so this light pink one corresponds to this Chipotle, and this turquoise trade area corresponds to this downtown Chipotle location, we can see that there's a much tighter trade area for delivery for these two locations than their organic or dine-in trade area. And that makes sense because a lot of these delivery traders are mostly managed by the providers themselves, and they're algorithmic in nature based on distance or drive time, so to speak, on quality of food. Now, the users can override that in the apps, but in aggregate, we're seeing a difference in behavior and trip pattern. And what that means is we now have, as just one example, a view and window into site selection as it relates to if I'm considering a third-party location purely like a ghost kitchen, which I may be able to fit in between these two sites. You could argue, after looking at third-party delivery of all the Chipotles, you could argue there's probably an opportunity somewhere inside or outside of the airport market that would infill this gap between these two Chipotles right here. Now, if you built another brick and mortar, you can be sure that you're likely going to cannibalize a lot of sales, of which we have some really cool analytics for. But again, this is just a quick preview, not to take too much time to show the visibility folks can now have and how their sites interact in an omni-channel way for site selection purposes and potential ghost kitchen planning.
All right, I saw a hand up. I think we're going to do some Q&A at the end, if that's all right.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So we can pull this back up?
Yeah, absolutely. No problem. So again, that's kind of a use case around real estate. I really just dabbled at a super high level because I didn't want to have a 10-minute or 20-minute video, but that's us starting to explore what's coming out of the Gridwise data from the trips that they have from all these different providers. And again, we're going to continue to develop and refine those analytics and build more value on top of that. Second aspect that we wanted to show related to omnichannel is looking at that same data, right? We came up with the trade area by looking at literally the delivery addresses that the deliveries went to, and using Sitezeus Market, we can now actually assign a segmentation to each of those households or each of those deliveries, like we can with mobile data and looking at the nighttime address of the mobile phone. And so I call this one a tale of two customers, right? You have Alice who likes to dine in, and you have Bob who prefers delivery. Do they have different interests? Do they have different incomes? They live in different neighborhoods? I don't know, but that's what we want to find out. And if they do, you would assume theoretically then maybe it's probably a good idea that we do some different type of targeting, like a bifurcated, targeted campaign to our delivery customers who are different profile and have different interests than we do to our dining customers. Because third-party delivery is now a core part of the business, at least a third, sometimes half of the business that's coming, the food coming in and out of the doors. So again, I'm going to have another really quick video. And again, what we're looking at here, just to recap what we have with Sitezeus Market, is it's a segmentation system at its core, where we've taken 52 million social users and all their posts that are geotagged across the nation, paired that with 117 million mobile devices and all the patterns those mobile devices are doing. Where are they visiting? What places are they going? And tying it back to the household like we do the social data, web visitation data, and then demographic data. So I'm sure you all are probably very familiar with psychographics. They've been around for 40 years. Most of those are built using demographic profiles and combinations along with a small survey relative to 300 million Americans. We now have very granular, very real-time, massive data sets that represent things much closer to behavior, which correlates with transaction behavior. And so that's what's going to be powering what you're going to see next and how we use the delivery data. So last video, I promise, but it's fun to watch.
All right, so now we're looking at those same 2 Chipotle locations in Phoenix, Arizona, and we're just looking at the third-party delivery trade area. And this third dimensional question now we can ask of this data is, all right, we've got a tighter trading range or delivery range than our organic business as we saw against the mobile data, but is there a difference in who our customer is who's ordering online or through these third-party delivery apps versus coming into the store to get carry out or dine in? And so we can actually use SiteZeus Market to better understand and answer that question. So I'm going to navigate down to SiteZeus Market from our main menu, and it's going to open up a new tab and automatically log me into SiteZeus Market. To orient the audience, the first thing I'd like to say about SiteZeus Market is that at its core, it is a geosocial, behavioral, psychographic data set in some sense that was built by a company called Spatial AI, who we've partnered with. And the big thing that really differentiates their data set or their psychographic data set against all of the traditional psychographic data sets like Prism, Panorama, so on and so forth, is that this data set was built with social data, geotagged social data, all the mobile visitation data, web visitation data from home addresses, and demographic data. And so it's really coming at who these individuals are from a multi-pronged, multi-dimensional space that's allowed much more visibility into how consumers transact and how they act. And so what we're looking at is a data set that roughly consists of 80 different segments that fit into 17 different families as a higher level hierarchy. So what I'm going to do is move back to the Analyze section. When you run mobile data or you have the third-party Gridwise delivery data, SiteZeus Market is automatically going to append those delivery addresses or those home addresses of the mobile visits, and it's going to assign one of those segments and family segments to that individual delivery or that individual guest. So what I'm going to do really quick is make sure that I'm filtered to the same project I was in SiteZeus Locate, and then I'm going to quickly search Chipotle. And what I'm looking at is the 7 Chipotles that I have third-party delivery data for that made those trade areas, and then I've got the same 7 Chipotles in the mobile data that I have. So what I'm going to do first is analyze who the top profiles are for the Chipotle dine-in guest. So I clicked on these 7, I click Analyze Sites. Right off the bat, I can see the number 1 family segment is upper suburban diverse families. If I click on that to learn a little bit more, I'm going to go quickly because I don't want to make a long video. I can see the head of household, their income, but I'm going to skip straight to past a ton of data you can understand about this specific segment, straight into brand influence. And at the bottom of brand influence, we can kind of hijack and shortcut straight to, there's a 0.84 index for delivery affinity, meaning they're less, as a segment, they're less likely to use third-party delivery services than the average American or the average segment, right? So less likely. A 1 would be average, right? That's the number 1 segment, and then we have young urban singles and young professionals. And something to take note real quick, the top segment is 15.5% of the actual guest counts that were coming in from mobile data. So that is my dine-in customer, so to speak. Now I'm going to move to understanding who my third-party delivery customer is by looking at those addresses. So for one, my upper suburban diverse families moved down to the number 5th spot to 5.6% instead of 15.5%. But more interestingly enough, young professionals and young urban singles moved to 28.8 and 21.4%. Almost half of my customers fit into these 2 specific segments. And if I click on these 2 segments, you'll see really quickly they're younger, which probably correlates with third-party delivery affinity. They're higher than average at 1.14 delivery affinity. And if I come back and look at young urban singles as well, let's go find out. 1.46, so 1.5 times the average to use third-party delivery. So that already correlates and validates that these are my third-party customers, and naturally they have higher third-party affinity. So what can I do with that? Well, if I'm now going to go run marketing campaigns in that market, either digitally or physically in any of my marketing channels, then let's go and think about setting up a different campaign with different artwork and a different potential discount or offer to my delivery customer versus my dine-in customer. So if I'm going to go for dine-in, I'm probably going to market to and campaign in Facebook or Instagram to the upper suburban diverse families. Whereas if I want to set up a campaign for example, young professionals and young urban singles, I can literally click confirm and send right here on those two segments. It's going to take me then into the activate portion of SiteZeus Market. You'll notice it's already pulled those two segment families in here, and it's processing how many of those individuals or households are across the nation. What I'm going to do next, though, is filter it down by DMA. So I'm going to click and uncheck all of these. I'm going to type in Phoenix, so I can filter it down to Phoenix. Then I can click Next, name this RLC Chipotle demo, click Next, and then I can literally take the exact matches that we have at household level, the household level for those young professionals and young urban singles, and I can find the exact matches on devices and accounts in Facebook and Instagram, so that when I'm doing and setting up a campaign in those platforms, I can use this as an exact audience. And we've done this with quite a few brands now, and we're seeing exponential growth on their click-through rates and the transaction volumes that rise out of those click-through rates. So that's a little snippet of what you can do with SiteZeus Market based on that same third-party delivery data.
Appreciate you guys taking the time to watch those videos, but we figured that'd be the best form to kind of show off what we do and how we can do it instead of just talking about concept. So from there, I think I'll hand it back off to Jim and open up the floor to QA.
Yeah, before we do that, I love showing this slide because, you know, if as an individual we're known by the company we keep, the friends we have, et cetera, I think as a brand and as a software platform, we're known by the brands that use us to continue to move their businesses forward. And it's quite an impressive list of top-notch brands. So with that, what questions do you all have?
I know we had one in the back,
Steve?
right?
Yeah. Is there a way to go back to that?
Yeah.
What's the data source?
Sure. Yeah, so the blue and darker purple lines are coming from near, which is the mobile data that we have coming into the four walls of the geofence of those two Chipotles. And then the smaller pink and the smaller turquoise, I try to do similar colors, but kind of an off color to represent delivery. And that delivery data is coming from Gridwise, which Russ was speaking to. They're a companion app that these drivers use to aggregate all the trips they're doing for these different providers. And Gridwise is tracking, and Russ, you can talk more about this, all of the details of those trips, like the delivery point, the origin point, drive times, other metadata associated with that. And what we're doing is we've built an API between our companies to essentially ask for all the trips that are coming or originating out of this Chipotle and going to and dropping off those deliveries.
Okay. So which of the third-party companies are using that software for aggregating?
Which delivery companies?
Oh.
So all of the major ones, Uber Eats, Grubhub, DoorDash, Instacart, we have direct connections to most of them. So as a driver, you're tracking your mileage and your earnings by connecting to that service. And then on the back end, we are actually able to go back historically and pull trip level information from those individual drivers, anonymize that data, and package it so it's represented here.
I think it's important to point out too, like you made the point, when you acquire a new driver, you not only get trips going forward, but you get all the history of trips going back as well.
Yeah. And it may be worth noting, that we also work very closely with these delivery services. 5 of the 6 top ones are customers and have validated the data themselves nationwide. So the confidence on that data is pretty high.
Okay, so they provide you like a map out there?
It's raw trip level data. So origin, destination, we have it down to the latitude, longitude, coordinates, as well as all the other metadata associated with that individual delivery.
If you were to report how recent is the data you've done, although you do demos in the markets typically like a year prior, so if you were to report like how recent is the actual data?
Regarding the grid-wise data specifically, or just any data in
Mobile
sites?
data.
Mobile traffic.
Mobile traffic's going to be literally data. If you pull data, like if you pull a mobile token right now on a site, it'll be 72 hours old at the latest. Grid-wise, we're updating on a monthly cadence right now, but I'm sure we're going to be developing that into a much more real-time cadence. But again, in aggregate, I'm not sure how much the third-party delivery trader is going to change in a given month.
So are you saying that GridWise captures all deliveries now, or does the driver have to be a part of GridWise for you to capture?
The drivers are GridWise app users, and we've been working with drivers for a little over 6 years now. And as I was saying before, it is a statistically representative sample of the overall gig economy, both on delivery and rideshare.
Yeah, I think it's important, like similar to mobile data, big question that came up when mobile came out is like, hey, how much, like this is, 2,000 trips and I have 50,000 guests a year, so where are the rest of my guests? That's a fair statement. We're not capturing every single trip on the mobile or the delivery data. But if you make the assumption and you test the data and you look for no major biases, you're essentially with 3 to 5% of the population of trips based on dine-in or delivery, you're going to have a representative sample to perform analysis like trader analysis and customer segmentation marketing, especially when you're talking about thousands of trips or thousands of customers. You're getting to scale where whether I have 2,000 or I have 20,000, the analytic coming out in aggregate at the end is not going to change that much.
If I could also add, Russ, I think this is what you shared with me, that if you're a serious driver, if you're the person driving 5 hours a week, you may not be using GridWise. But if this is your job and this is how you make your living or a big part of your living, and you need to track because you've got your taxes and everything else to pay, you're on GridWise. If you're the rookie who's doing this for 3 hours a week, you're probably not. And they may stop off at one of your restaurants and you won't capture it.
So the data set of 60 locations, it seems like you would be able to guide Chipotle quite well, and that's a lot of samples to say, here are your next 5 locations out of 8. How big of a data set do you need, and what do you do when there's less?
With this data, you don't necessarily it becomes powerful even just between 2 locations at a time. Obviously, I didn't have time to go pull all 60 locations, and that would be pretty wild, in-depth analysis that would have taken more than 2 minutes in a video. But you can start leveraging this mobile and GridWise data literally with 2 units. I think I'll bifurcate that with a difference in that what our core value prop has been the past 9 years is building and training sales forecasting models that we need healthier samples. And so usually we won't sell any of the predictive location intelligence as part of our Locate platform until you're around 50 units, mature units. But you can use the rest of the application as a growing brand and what we call our GIS side of the platform, where you can get access to all this raw data, you can look at corollary analysis, a lot of kind of precursors to predictive if you're below 50 units.
Thank you.
Yeah, no doubt.
Any other questions? Then I'll say that's a wrap, and thank you for
Awesome.
joining us.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.